Thank you very much. So my name is Marina Puebla, and for my master thesis at the University of La Laguna, I work monitoring underwater noise to assess the impact of shipping on cetaceans in the semi-pristine waters of El Hierro in the Canary Islands. And this thesis work has been supervised by Aparicio and Alonso. So although the ocean has been considered a quiet environment, it's actually full of sound. The acoustic landscape or soundscape is composed by natural and anthropogenic sounds. Natural sounds are shown in this illustration of a pristine environment and is composed by physical agents such as wind, waves or rain, known as geophony, and biological agents such as marine mammal, fishes or invertebrates vocalizations. To this, the effect of mechanical human activities known as anthropophony is added. This anthropogenic noise has increased significantly in the last decades since the Industrial Revolution, and mainly due to shipping activity. This shipping noise has a frequency range peaking between 10 Hz and 1 kHz, mostly due to the propeller cavitation noise. These are low-frequency sounds that experiences low attenuation and therefore has a potential for long-range propagation. And shipping noise contributes to ambient noise across ocean basins and have been evidenced even when no ships are seen close to the receiver. And in this map, we can see that there's an asymmetry between shipping traffic being concentrated mostly in the North Hemisphere. Disturbance from shipping lies particularly in the continuity of the noise input over time, and this has been proved to have negative consequences for marine fauna due to many marine species use acoustic cues to perceive their environment and facilitate ecological and biological processes. In this figure, we can see the overlap between frequency range for marine species and primary shipping noise. And between these, cetaceans are especially vulnerable, and negative effects such as behavioral changes, masking, hear loss, or strandings have been reported when the shipping noise increased. However, to assess the actual impact of noise over marine assemblages, there's a lack of current and historic data. So the European Marine Framework Directive suggested to develop one third-octave analysis between the 63 Hz and 125 Hz bands. This is a measure of the pressure within these bands. And our analysis is conducted in El Hierro, which is this little island in the Atlantic, and is characterized by its pristine, almost pristine waters and abundance of cetaceans. Sorry. So our research aimed to do a long-term analysis of low-frequency ambient sound, identifying anthropogenic contributors to underwater noise, and test whether noise level within this 10 Hz to 1 kHz band have varied a long time, as well as test whether number of boats and cetacean sightings have varied across years. And this has an applicability for future management strategies in coastal areas where anthropogenic pressure is likewise increasing. So our study area in El Hierro is located here in El Mar de las Calmas, which is in the southwest coast of El Hierro. El Hierro is the youngest and southernmost of the Canary Islands, hence having the most oligotrophic warm and saline waters. Due to its volcanic origin, great apes are found less than 1 nautical mile from the coast, determining the confluence of oceanic and eritic species. And 15 cetacean species have been reported, both transient and resident populations. Las Calmas hosts a special protection area, a special conservation area, and a marine reserve of fishery interest. And small fishing vessels, yachts, and zodiacs are the main vessel types found within these waters. This is a deployment scheme we follow to collect the acoustic data, and autonomous sound recorders, Soundtrap 300 standard and high frequency, were used during dedicated acoustic and visual cetacean surveys throughout 2016, 17, 20, and 21. These hydrophones were suspended from weighted ropes and attached to surface buoys that had a GPS attached for tracking and recovery. And these hydrophones collected information at a sampling rate of 144, 288, and 576, depending on the research campaign. This is a picture of Soundtrap, although it's not the one we used, and this is the GPS. Concurrently, visual surveys were conducted from a coastal cliff, and at the observation platform, 2 observers used 7 by 50 binoculars, and a third researcher used these 15 by 80 binoculars to cover the full horizontal line, and they covered the full bay. Besides, a fourth observer was in charge of entering the data into the software log tool in MATLAB and record information every 30 minutes about environmental data such as sea state and occurrence of boats. Also, every time a sighting occurred, it was entered into the software, and we collected information such as the species code, number of individuals when possible. To process the acoustic data, first root mean square relative levels were calculated. The audios were clipped to avoid recording the research vessel, and then extracted samples were entered into PalmGuide tool in MATLAB, and TOL levels were estimated using a hand window, 1 second window length, 50% window overlap. The 63 Hz, 125, 250, 500, and 1 kHz TOL bands were selected, and root mean squares for every TOL were calculated for every half an hour to match the environmental data. Then the data was plotted for its visualization, and a Kruskal-Wallis test was run to test for differences within these TOL bands along time, and also a generalized linear model was fit in R using the gamma family to test whether these environmental variables were contributing to the explanation of relative levels within the TOL bands. Besides, an evolution of boats over time was analyzed. First, the data was plotted for its visualization, and again a Kruskal-Wallis test was run to test for differences within the both categories along time. And to analyze the evolution of cetacean sightings over time, first the field observations were weighted by hours of effort, and 2 metrics were calculated: a cetacean's diversity rate and a sightings abundance rate, considering both number of species seen each day and number of groups per different species seen each day, and weighted by effort within that day. The data was again visualized, and a Kruskal-Wallis test was used to test for differences between this rate along time. So overall, 414 hours of opportunistic acoustic data were gathered during 55 sampling days, and recordings ranged 3 to 10 hours long and were collected. The deployment scheme is shown in this map. However, recording time per year was not equally distributed along time, being 2016 the year with more hours recorded. So regarding ambient noise evolution, we found significant differences for every frequency band. The louder values were found for the 63 Hz TOL band, and there's an increasing trend for every frequency band, being the higher values, those for the last years in 2020 and 2021. These differences between 2016 and 2021 were of around 6 decibels per average relative levels per year. The generalized linear model results are shown in this table that shows which variables contribute significantly to the explanation of the received levels within each band. So for the 63 Hz TOL band, only sea state was considered to be significant for the explanation of the model. For the TOL 125, there was no variable significantly contributing to the model. For the 250, sea state, number of fishing boats, and number of diving boats were affected were significantly affecting the relative levels within this band. For the 500 toll distance to the coast, sea state, swell, and number of fishing boats were significantly contributing to the model. And lastly, for the 1 kilohertz band, sea state, swell, and number of fishing boats were found to be significant contributors to the model. But how did a ship evolve over the study area? Well, we found that the distribution of number of yachts, diving boats, and total number of boats was not the same across years. And we found a slight increase in the number of fishing boats, number of diving boats, and total number of boats, whereas number of yachts did not have an evident pattern a long time. Regarding cetacean sightings, we found after the surveying time 9 species identified, being big whales the most sighted groups that are represented here in these warm colors, and also members of the Delphinidae family were frequently recorded that are represented here in this lower part, and members of the Balaenopteridae family were sporadically seen as well. We found that for both sighting abundance rate and sighting diversity rate, significant differences were evidenced across time, mainly led by this drop in May 2017 for both rates. And there seemed to be some seasonality with higher values in sightings per summer. So overall, this study revealed a high increase in relative levels for every targeted toll band, with differences ranging 4 to 7 decibels over average root mean square relative levels, which is higher than the rate found in other marine areas of 3 decibels per decade. Also, the European Marine Framework Directive suggested indicator bands of 63 Hz and 125 Hz were not found to be significantly influenced by shipping within the study area. And to explain this and the poor correlation coefficients found between the toll bands and the explanatory variables, we have different hypotheses. The most plausible one is an increase in distance sampling. This seems a valid hypothesis since the Canary Islands are part of major shipping routes in the Atlantic for global trade. Also, observer bias is worth to be mentioned, given that these research campaigns have been conducted over different years and by different researchers, and self-noise was finally excluded because there's a recent paper that shows that the soundtrack flow noise has been proved to not interfere with ambient noise below 30 kHz. On the other hand, there has been evidence that shipping noise is a chronic source of stress for marine animals, whose effects in the population are still unclear. In our study, we have seen that the coastal waters of El Hierro are a key area for cetaceans, and that current noise levels presented are not expected to pose a threat over populations. However, besides significant differences in sightings rate are thought to be a consequence of seasonality, natural anthropogenic conditions, and visibility. However, a rising of ambient noise can have masking effects both for low frequency and medium frequency cetaceans. And to conclude, we would like to highlight that global rise in relative levels also in semi-pristine waters with low anthropogenic pressure has been evidenced, and it's important to know the acoustic soundscape or areas minimally impacted for establishing baseline acoustic levels of reference. As further research, we propose gathering long-term datasets collected throughout the year to account for seasonal variability, as well as extending the study across years for a longer period and collect or use ACE data for distance sampling monitoring. Thank you very much for